Your relationship with money matters. I'm Michelle Perkins, and this is the Money and You podcast, where I will be breaking down your relationship with money, offering tough love money tips, and a money dating plan that will focus on lifting the barriers to success to help pave the way for better money practices and increased wealth. It's time to take control to live a limit-free life. It starts today. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Money and You show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. I'm so glad to be here with you today. And we have a great show for you. I'm super excited about this particular show because as a mom, this show is really designed for working moms or moms who would like to work or even thinking about possibly working again. And so I had a corporate career for 15 years. I was a CPA and a business consultant and worked with some wonderful companies and then had my kids later in life. And so I really resonated with our next guest because there was a lot that went on in that transition. I wasn't sure if I'd go back to work after I had my first child, but it was later in life. I did work pretty awful hours, actually, sort of around the clock. And so I made the decision to stay home and raise my kids and then picked up things along the way and then ultimately went back in my own business. But there were some interesting things along the way for sure. Like when I had my first child, I actually outfitted an office in my home thinking I would immediately start a business. And boy, I didn't turn those computers on for about 6 months. I had no idea what taking care of a child was even about. I had not been a person focused on that. And it took me by surprise, A, how much I loved being with my baby, and B, just how much time it took. So anyway, Angela Bell is here with us today from Calgary, Canada, which is very fun. And I'm going to introduce her in just a second. And she's going to talk all about being really moms having their best lives. And so how work fits into that and all kinds of really interesting topics. So this is going to be a great show. So I'm going to introduce Angela. Angela's always been the type of person who likes to go after big goals. After successfully obtaining her honors Bachelor of Business Administration degree from Wilfrid Laurier University, she went on to get a law degree and an MBA from Western New England University. She passed the New York State Bar Exam and Connecticut State Bar Exam in the same sitting. After returning to Canada, she successfully grew her family's food manufacturing business from $200,000 in annual sales to $2.5 million in annual sales in 5 years. And while all of that may sound very impressive, she's actually here for another reason. She's here because she's a mom to two beautiful kids, twins, in fact. And when she had twins, she was knee-deep in growing the business. Having kids didn't make her ambition disappear. She didn't wake up in the morning after thinking, I think I want to stay home now and just blissfully raise my kids. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It just wasn't for her. But it seemed to be what society and everyone else thought she should do. This led to a lot of guilt and shame. And she passed on a chance to compete in the ITU Triathlon World Championships because it just at the time felt wrong. After doing work to overcome this mom guilt and shame associated with not fitting into what society wants, she made it her mission to help other moms do the same. She became an NLP practitioner, hypnotherapist, and life and success coach. Now she coaches other moms, helps them get free of their limiting beliefs, release their mom guilt and shame, and get comfortable going after their goals and being their best and highest self. She's an award-winning mortgage agent, entrepreneur, author, business owner, mother, and wife. And she balances her personal and professional lives together by understanding that they are both important parts of living a happy life. Angela, welcome.
Hi, Michelle. It's great to be here. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. When I read your bio after I received it, I was just stunned. You've done so many things. So and you're very young. So I'm really impressed by how intentional you've been and how you just seem to set your mind to something and do it. So I think you're a great role model for people. Do you want to go ahead and, even though I've read the bio, what can you tell us about some of sort of the sole reasons that you got into this?
Yes, thanks, Michelle. So, the reason I got into working with moms around freeing themselves of their limiting beliefs, getting rid of mom guilt, and going after their goals is because, as you read in the bio, like when I had my kids, everybody thought I was just going to stop and stay home, and I felt really bad for not feeling fulfilled by that idea. Everybody's like, oh, well, who's going to raise your kids? Or, aren't you going to miss them? And of course I would. But there was still something inside of me that really needed to be, running my business and accomplishing my goals. And I couldn't wrap my head around why I couldn't have both, or why, I had to feel bad about even wanting both. And so after doing the work, I realized there's a lot of moms out there that, either are going after their goals and they feel terrible doing it because they feel like they should be, putting everything on pause, or they're not going after their goals because of the guilt. And I think that, society's missing out because, like, you look at moms, these fantastic creatures who can literally like multitask, they can project manage, they can cook, they can, tend to small medical emergencies, they can, coordinate 5 schedules, and they can do it all. And it looks rather effortless. And to take them out of, going after what they want, I think does a solid disservice. So I wanted to help with that.
Yeah. Oh, I so agree with you. And I love what you're saying because my company is Limit Free Life. And all these pressures that we feel from society and family members and just, the world at large, it really prevents us. It does in itself limit us from living a limit-free life. And what you're talking about is allowing yourself permission to have a limit-free life, whatever that means to you, on your terms. Everybody's different. Everyone's idea of success and happiness it is just their own unique kind of blueprint. And so people have to be true to that. And you will be, in my opinion anyway, a better mom for following your true path and being who you are. So
I agree with you 100%.
yeah, people are always looking for the right answer. And in this case, for sure, there's only your answer. There's really no right way. And so I love that you're allowing moms, well, first of all, guilt. I grew up with a lot of guilt and no fault from my parents. It's just kind of, it was in the air. And so I picked up on it. And guilt is really a terrible waste of emotion and time. And so I love the idea of just allowing moms to not feel guilty, whether they want to stay home full time and not work, or whether they want to work full time. It's the whole range is an option for people. And so when you try to help women alleviate some of this guilt, what are some of the steps that you take them through? How do you do that?
So oftentimes a lot of our guilt or mom guilt comes down to 2 things. The first is comparison. So looking outside of ourselves at, what other people are doing and just measuring ourselves and telling ourselves that we don't measure up. And the second is, again, external. It's looking outside of ourselves and then internalizing the statements and beliefs of other people. So whether it's how you're raised, that, moms are supposed to be at home and do the cooking and the cleaning and, manage the household, or if you're, just raised to see women as the caregiver in a family, or told that, your husband will take care of you, or anything like that. We take a lot of these things and we internalize them, and we don't actually take the time to figure out what it is we want or we believe, what our core values are. So one of the things that I do with my clients is we go through a process that I evolved from some Tony Robbins work, and also the work by Byron Katie. And that's, it's breaking down the limiting beliefs that we have that cause us to feel this guilt. So the first thing we do is we look and we make a list of all the things we do for our child or children, right? Which we'll need like 1 or 2 pages to list all the things we do for our kids. And then we set that aside, and then we think of a time that makes us feel guilty. And we look at what are we telling ourselves when we feel that way? So what are the thoughts, the words, what's the inner critic in our head saying when we feel guilty? And so we write that down. And then what we have to do is we have to question, because those are our limiting beliefs. We have to question those beliefs. So we ask ourselves, is this true? And of course, our ego is going to pipe up and say, yes, it's true. If it wasn't true, I wouldn't believe it. But we have to go a bit deeper than that and say, could it be a misconception? Could I be misinterpreting something? Is there facts or information I don't have? And then I often like to say, would your husband or a husband feel guilty about this? And the reason we want to ask that is just to look at the different societal norms that are enforced on the different genders. And, I know my husband, I'll be like, oh gosh, don't you feel awful? And he's like, no, I have to do this. I was like, wow, that's liberating. So we want to really question the belief. And then after we've questioned it, we want to say, how do I feel, behave, or experience life when I'm telling myself these things? And oftentimes that will be very low vibe feelings. So I feel bad. I don't want to, go out into the world. I want to retreat internally. And so now we're going to flip it on our head. How would I feel if I didn't believe this? What would my life be like if I didn't believe these limiting beliefs? And when we think about that for a while, it can look very freeing. And then the final step is, or second to last step, is that we write out the exact opposite of the beliefs we wrote down first. So if it's, I'm a bad mom because I work, or I'm a bad mom because I'm not patient, we write the opposite and then we read it out loud. And then after we've done that, we go back, because we're creating a new belief here, and we reinforce it by looking at all of the things we wrote down that we do for our children. Because this is an example of all of the things that we do and that we do quite right, because they're still alive.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. That's a great detailed process. Thank you. And I know, there are moms listening to this going, wow, I can barely get a shower. How am I going to take time to sit and do this, writing and everything else? And I'll ask you what you would say to that. I personally would say whatever it takes. I mean, if you have to get up 15 minutes earlier to do this, because these are the processes that help you to live a really good life. And if you can't take the time for these things, you'll just be on, the treadmill doing the same thing over and over.
No, and that's exactly it. It is hard. I mean, I get it. I remember, not having time for a shower, or not having time for anything to do with me as well. But you mentioned 15 minutes, and that's something I really believe there is power in. I teach about the power of 15 minutes. So if you can either get up 15 minutes earlier, or 15 minutes after the kids have gone down, just make time for yourself. And go through the process, you will start to feel better. And the thing is, once you start to feel better, then you start to notice you've got a bit more time, because a lot of our time gets eaten up focusing on these thoughts in our heads, and comparing ourselves to others and reminding ourselves what a not good enough mom we are. And when we free ourselves from a lot of that, time kind of opens up a little bit.
Yeah, there's that whole concept that we can actually create time, kind of Gay Hendricks idea around that. And I think you're so right. Is so much of it is dependent on how we're feeling in our mental state, in our emotional state, and working on those things is just crucial, really. And when you're taking care of other people, you're focused on their emotional states. Are they crying? Are they upset? And so we really, as moms, it's very easy to lose track. And just as you said, your thoughts about things are, often creating some of the feelings. And your focus on feelings is really striking me. I love it, because I think it's so important to tune in and see how you're feeling, and talk to yourself about that, observe it, think about it.
Yeah. And I think one thing too is, you mentioned that, we're focusing on the feelings and the emotional states of the people we're caring for, like our children. But a key point here is that our children learn how to respond and how to feel about things by mirroring us, right? So they don't listen to what we tell them to do, they listen to what we do. And so if we can learn how to, feel and process our feelings, we can pass that on to them so that they can grow up knowing how to feel and process those things, our emotions, our feelings, how to work with, the negative self-talk. Because if we don't make time for ourselves, then what we're teaching our children is that they shouldn't make time for themselves too, that self-care is not important, that, doing for other people is more important than doing for ourselves. So sometimes looking at it that way and realizing, what you do is a model that your children learn, can help increase the desire to make the time, because it's more, as moms, we care about everybody else, but when we see it as helping them as well, it encourages us to take that time.
Yeah, I love that. And as you're speaking, I'm seeing my own life sort of flash before me. And as much as my mom always told me, whatever you want to do, I want you to be happy, I watched her be like the ultimate caretaker. And I did, kind of evolve into somebody who just thought there's so much of that, you value yourself by how much you do for others. And yeah, it was very, very interesting. And I'm fascinated by the idea of getting away from comparing yourself, because when I had kids, it was hard, but I don't even know what it would be like today, because there was not so much social media. There was probably no social media. So how do you handle social media in today's world with this?
It can be tough. It can be really tough because we're inundated every minute of every day with either, Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or, whatever happens to be newer. And, we scroll through and we see the picture of the perfect family, whether it be a friend or an influencer that we're following, where we see the perfect meal being served, or the, perfect party that looks like it came off of Pinterest with the coordinating snacks and decorations and all this stuff. And we look and we go, oh, I couldn't do that. But what we forget often, and we need to remind ourselves, is we don't know what happened before that picture. We don't know what happened after that picture. And we're really just seeing people's highlight reels. Like, nobody really posts about the worst parts of their life, right? Unless, they're comfortable sharing that. But oftentimes people are too, it's not comfortable to share the bad stuff, but we want to show people the good stuff because we want to show them that, we've made it and we're doing great. So if we remind ourselves that, we're seeing their highlight reel, but we're living our behind the scenes footage, then, we can notice that there's a disconnect. And the other thing that I tell my clients to do is also make a list of what you're good at. Like, write down at the end of the day, write down 5 things you did right. Because chances are you've done a lot of right things. And if you can't think of them, ask your kids. Say, what are 5 great things that mommy did today? I mean, if they're under the age of 6, they will have great things. Mine are only 6 years old, so I don't know at what stage they stop having great things to say about us, but the little ones will tell you about all the really great stuff you did. And just remember to see yourself the way they see you.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I could say a lot about that, having older kids, but I'll leave that out for now. You hear it in the birthday cards or after the fact. Boy, that's great. And, if you want to go back to the 15 minutes, there's something that you did that I was so impressed by getting up 15 minutes earlier. Do you want to talk on that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So when I discovered the power of 15 minutes, was when I decided I wanted to write a book. So I'd had a life experience and I thought to myself, I want to write about this because I feel like my experience could help people. But at the time I was, starting a new career. My kids, I think, were 4 years old. So I'd, little kids and busy life and full-time work and all that stuff. I was like, how am I going to do this? I was like, well, I'm going to write for 15 minutes a day and I'm going to do it every day. And I didn't necessarily have a word count or anything I was going for, but I got up and between 5:45 and 6 a.m. I wrote every day. And it took me a year, like an entire year, to write this book, but I did it. And I think that's something that can translate to other areas of people's lives as well. As, we often think when we're trying to accomplish goals, or even, trying to, save money, like we always think it has to be done in a big way. Like, I'm going to spend 2 hours a day, working on my goal. And that's overwhelming. That's, it throws us off because we're like, I can't find that. But
Right.
15 minutes is manageable, right? Like, you can set a timer, like an egg timer or timer on your phone, and you can focus on something for 15 minutes without it disrupting your entire day.
Right.
And if you do it over time consistently, 3 months in, you're going to look back and go, wow, look at how much I got accomplished. And it's amazing. Yeah. So 15 minutes a day, it's how I wrote a book.
I love that. And I think it's so impressive because so many people who, you say, oh, it took a whole year. Well, I know so many people who take 5-10 years to write a book. And so I think 1 year is actually amazing. And I just love that. I feel like, how did you feel the rest of the day just knowing that you had done those 15 minutes? I feel like that offers a lot of fuel just for your day to know that you made a commitment to do something, you did it. So it's not so important how long it is. It's the fact that you sat down, and even if you wrote 2 words, one sentence, something got done that you had, for you, really.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. I mean, it's a win, right? You already get to tick a box in the morning and you've done something that's moving your goal forward or your dream forward. So you start that day off by winning.
Yeah.
And then you can carry that with you throughout the day. There were days that I didn't write much. Sometimes I did more, research than writing in the 15 minutes, or maybe I only got, 100 words down on a page. But the fact that you get up and you do it kind of sets the tone, because you're already a doer right out of the gate.
Right. I think there's so much value in that. And whether it's writing a book or it's exercising or it's prepping meals or, meditating, whatever it is for you, that first 15 minutes, those morning routines, they're amazing for what how that can influence your day, I think. So that's very, very cool. Let's talk a little about money and moms, and I think this is a huge topic and a fascinating one. There's so many avenues to go. What do you see working with moms that are perhaps money pitfalls, perhaps, challenges around money that moms are feeling?
So one thing that I often run up against is moms feeling like they don't deserve things if they're staying at home. So if they stay at home, they feel like they haven't kind of earned the right to take time for themselves, or like they undervalue the work that they do at home, raising the family, managing the household, doing all the stuff, because they don't get a paycheck for it.
Right.
So that's one thing. And then when they choose to work, they have that guilt of, now I'm leaving the house. Like, I know I've got, a friend who stopped working because it was going to cost more in daycare, to have her kids in care while she was working than she was actually going to earn. So she stopped working. And then now that she wasn't working, she didn't feel like she had the ability to do things because she wasn't bringing in money. And moms can have a funny idea of money. They are oftentimes great at spending it on the people they care about and not great at spending it on themselves.
100%.
Whether it be to invest in, taking a course to upgrade their skills, or taking, a day to have lunch with a friend. And oftentimes they, leave the financial side of it to someone else. Because, if they're staying home and they're not earning the money, they don't really think they should be the one managing it. But I think that knowing and understanding money is so is such a critical skill, because it gives you peace of mind to be able to do that.
Right, right. And yeah, so many important things that you brought up. The one thing that really, really does kind of rile me up is this idea, having been a full-time mom for a
Mm-hmm.
period of time, that workload is different than any kind of work you can. I had a very, um, challenging sort of corporate career, a lot of hours, a lot of intensity. That said, it was very different to be home with children and doing that, but as far as it being hard work in a lot of ways, and I love my kids and I'm glad I did it, and there were all these
Mm-hmm.
wonderful perks and benefits, but it's work. And when not getting a paycheck suddenly makes it not work, that just makes me crazy at this point, because and I don't think I felt deserving of much either, because
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't the one bringing in the money, but that mindset is so ridiculous that I don't even know how to kind of redefine it, but it needs to be redefined because
Oh, 100%, 100%. And it's kind of funny because if we go back through and listen to this podcast, I wonder how many times each of us have said, like, I love my kids, but
yeah,
because that's another one, right? Is this idea
right,
that moms wanting to make money or wanting to create their own financial security
right,
says something about how much they care for their children, or the fact that we don't love every minute of it
right.
somehow means we don't love our children. And I just think that's ridiculous. So, like, it's it blows my mind sometimes the way when I think about the fact that we're encouraged to, nowadays anyways,
Hmm.
we're encouraged to get our degrees and do all these great things and get great careers, and then it's like, go on, break the glass ceiling. Oh, hold on a minute, you just had kids.
Yeah,
Calm down.
yeah, yeah,
you've got 18 years before you can go back to that stuff.
right.
It's like, are you kidding me? um and yet then, just like you're saying, and yet when we stay home, it's like no one values the work that we're doing.
Not
Like, we
at
don't
all.
hear about, like, the hero mom that just put in consecutive 24-hour shifts for 18 years.
Right, right,
Right.
right.
No days off, no
No
vacation, like,
lunch with the no happy hours, no,
no. So,
yeah,
and I think, we as women and as moms, we need to really start valuing what we bring to the table, not just outside of the home, but in the home.
right.
And we need to be okay with, making more money than our partners.
Hmm.
We need to be okay with going after our goals. Even if we're staying at home and we want to start a business,
Right.
that we need to be okay
Hmm.
with doing that, because, like, we didn't stop mattering the day we
Hmm.
had children, and we didn't stop being brilliant and stop being, creative and ambitious.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting too. I had such a bias when I left my corporate job. There was a guy who worked for me, and he said, if by chance you don't come back, I mean, I had said I was coming back, but he brought it up, and he said, well, my wife, is part of this mommy group, and it's really great, and it's really helped her get out of the house and enjoy life, and so I kind of didn't pay too much attention. But after I didn't come back, I did reach out about that, and I had such a bias. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say, but my image of who would be in this mommy group, would, be it just was exactly the opposite of what I found. I found all these super smart, women who had done all kinds of amazing things and were fabulous to be around. And, so I myself had my own, like, okay, these are the people who are staying home and not working, and they're different than me. And I was 100% wrong. So I kind of love it when I'm wrong like that, because I don't like having
Absolutely.
these biases. So, it's good when they're just exploded in my face.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a fascinating topic. And what you were saying, I realize how much sort of proving energy there is around, showing that you love your children.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that was another surprise, was how much I did love my children, and that kind of feeling wasn't anything I'd ever experienced before, nor will I probably ever experience anything like that again, except maybe for grandkids. I don't know. But and yet we have to we have to sort of put ourselves through all these steps and through the motions to sort of prove that to the world that we actually do care about them as much as we know we do. But so I find that fascinating. I think it must just be a holdover from the way we used to do things, and now that things have changed and women are more heavily in the workforce, there's just a holdover there, I guess. I don't know. Do you have a thought on that? Why do we have to prove it?
I think it's just like we just have to change the language we use around it when we're talking about it. Like, so many moms refer to their own business as a side gig, or we downplay
exactly
what we're doing because we're afraid of what people will think of us. But we're doing these things not in spite of our children. We're doing them because and for our children, right? So again, going back to the idea of modeling behaviors and feelings and the things we want our children to learn, like by going after our goals, we are teaching them that that's okay and that that's in fact a great thing. By prioritizing our mental health or our self-worth or our fulfillment, we're teaching them to do that too. So even talking about the bad stuff is still showing them that it's okay, that there's bad stuff, that life doesn't have to be perfect for it to still be good. So I think really changing the way we talk about it as moms, not just, how everybody else talks about it, but if we start talking about it differently and we kind of start correcting people when they're talking about, oh, you have to go back to work. No, I choose to go back to work. I don't have to do anything.
Right.
I am choosing to go back to work because I enjoy it. I am choosing to start a business because I'm passionate about it. I am choosing to stay home with my children because I want to. Right. Get rid of the have to's, get rid of the, asking permission and explaining ourselves. And if we stop doing it, then people stop asking.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you're exactly right. A lot of it is the language, what we tell ourselves, what we put out there, as we communicate with other people. Yeah, really, really interesting. And so, there are some other issues around money too, where women, when they don't work for a while, they stop being the earners in the family. It does put them at a distinct disadvantage in a lot of ways. They lose some earning, they sort of lose their place in that progression. So when they go back to work, they might be starting back in at a lower pay scale or, sort of starting over a bit, although I have found that to not be the case in a lot of situations. And the other is, that women lose some of their choices when they're no longer earning income and they're dependent on someone else. At some point, the kids do get older and grow up, and then women may or may not want that same life with that same partner. And so, just in general, how much would you be involved in money and in earning money, even if it's part-time? Do you have any kind of recommendation or thought on that?
I know for myself personally, and what I would recommend is, that, moms always stay financially literate and have a way to support themselves, whether it be maintaining a skill while their kids are young. So if it's a technical position that they worked in and they need to maintain a knowledge base or a skill set, keeping that up while they're home with their kids so that they know they can re-enter the workforce skilled. But I mean, even like life happens, even if you stay with your partner and you love them to death, like my dad died 4 years ago suddenly, and I can guarantee you that my mom didn't see that coming. But these things happen, like life happens, and maintaining your ability to earn money and maintaining your ability to manage money does give you choices, because when these things happen, whether it's that you leave your spouse or they pass away or they lose their job, your ability to understand and manage that situation gives you peace of mind, and it doesn't force you to rely on people to do it for you, because that can be pretty scary, right? Like my mom had me, so I could step in and I could help her out with the financial stuff. But what if you don't have somebody close to you that can do that? Then you're going to have to rely on outside people. And that, again, puts you in a position where, you don't feel in control, and it can make a bad situation feel worse. So, whether it be for, personal security or just to feel prepared,
right.
Having a part-time job or starting, your own business or maintaining your skills so you are able to keep working and jump back in the workforce. And then also maintaining, financial literacy and understanding, things went from checks to credit cards to all online banking. Like we don't even see people at the bank anymore. So staying current with that kind of stuff as well is very important, just because it puts you in a position where you are self-reliant.
That's right.
You can look after yourself no matter what, and your kids, no matter what happens.
That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely perfect. Yeah, I love that. And I know from working with a lot of clients who have taken time off to be with, children and raise them, and then want to go back to work, one of the things that I see is they become, well, they lose their confidence, and they actually say things to me. They could have been a vice president in a company when they had kids and left to stay home. And then, all of a sudden, 20 years later, they're talking about, well, maybe I could be someone's administrative assistant because I really don't have any skills anymore. And, we go through a process where they realize that they still do have skills, but, and they don't have to take that kind of a drop. But it's an automatic in a lot of people, kind of where they go in their mind. If I haven't worked for a while, then I'm not, I don't understand today's workforce. I don't know what they're doing out there, and I won't be able to step back into it very easily. The other thing I see too is just women really getting lost, losing their identity, and just not knowing what they want after they've raised children. And maybe they don't want anything to do with the career they had before, but they really are so out of touch with what they would want. They don't know what their interests are anymore, and all of those kinds of things. So I love what you're saying about keeping up the skills. I think it's also important to keep up with your own interests, pursue interests, even if you're not, doing any of it for work. But
that's just it. Just having something that, you're passionate about, or that's uniquely yours, like something that you're curious about, right? Like that you just wonder a little bit about, and you wonder enough to maybe read a book or look into it. But yeah, like keeping some piece of yourself, whether it be the books you read or the exercise you do or the friends you talk to, or even, the great thing right now is we've got all these groups online, right? Like you can stay part of things without leaving your house. Right. So you could be part of, like a mom group online or a brainstorming group, or, you're interested in gardening. So you find the local gardeners, like Master Gardeners chapter in your area, or maybe you're interested in, statistics. And so you find a Facebook group about people who love statistics. Like there's so much out there now where you can stay engaged, and you can even just dabble, like something piques your interest, find a group, see if you still like it. If not, move on.
Right. Right. And going back to you, I was really interested in the number of things that you did, law school and MBA school and everything else. And then, what was your progression? What was your thinking when you went to law school, for example?
So I really like learning things. I think for myself, the accomplishment of something is half the time what I'm going for. I want to see if I can. Right. Like, can I do this? But going to law school, I think when I was 8, I decided I was going to be a lawyer. So I did my undergrad degree, went to law school. When I was there, they had a concurrent program where you could do your MBA at the same time as doing your law degree. And I was like, well, I'm here. Why not? So I actually did both at the same time, because it was available
Right.
and it sounded like a great idea. I don't know. I guess I didn't really want to have a social life. So yeah. And then I did my bar exams, and I went to school down in the United States, and I'm from Canada. So I think I always wanted to go back to Canada. Um, and once I was done law school and I was working in law, I was like, oh, I think I want to go back to Canada. So I just left, went back to Canada, um, and thought about getting my law licenses up here. But then Dad found a business that he wanted to buy. And so we did that instead.
Yeah, fascinating. So you really are pretty. You got immersed in entrepreneurship with that. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And is that, do you think, where you've landed, that you want to keep being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I don't know. There's something neat about it. There's just this, you know, creating your own path,
Yeah.
you know, determining your own destiny, making your own decisions. Yeah, it comes with a lot of other stuff. It's not easy, and it's not a stress-free environment, but I love the challenge and just the what ifs, like the positive what ifs. What if
Right.
it works out? What if I can? What if it's great?
Those are great questions. Those aren't the what ifs that a lot of people ask themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And so, do you give that kind of encouragement to moms, to those kinds of what ifs? Because I think they really need that. Being a mom it can be tiresome. And when you're exhausted, obviously, you're not always looking at what if it's great. You're kind of just too tired to think that way. Um,
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's, what if, we think about it, and oftentimes as moms, we think we have to do it all. And it's like, well, what if you just don't do it? What if you just don't do the dishes tonight? What if you just don't, what if you just order pizza? What if you just sit down for a minute and breathe? Simple things like that. But then it's, well, what if it works out? What if you can learn a new skill? What if you can start a business? What if it feels great?
yeah.
And sometimes people, like you were saying, like people don't often ask themselves those questions. Like, what if it turns out really great? And when somebody asks, it's like, what if it does?
Yeah. Yeah.
And their mind kind of starts going all of a sudden. They're like, oh, this could be cool.
Well, and I wonder if that can lead into some mom guilt too, where even though it sounds cool, it sounds like, ooh, I'll be focusing too much on myself if it goes great. Do you think that comes up for people? Sort of that.
Yeah, I think, I don't think you just get rid of the mom guilt all like for good. I think that, it's something that you work on, constantly reminding yourself, that you don't have to be a certain way. You don't have to, like I always tell moms, you know what, like the goal is to, keep your kids loved, like love them, keep them fed, and keep them reasonably clean, especially when they're little. That's what you're aiming for. And I think we put too much pressure on ourselves to be too many other things. Like I need to keep them entertained and, stimulate their mind and baby Einstein and all this jazz. But, you deal with the guilt by piece, and every time it comes up, you remind yourself that, you're good. You're good as who you are. You're not trying to be that mom over there. You're not trying to be someone else. You're trying to be your kid's mom, and they need you to be you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this so much. And as I'm listening, I'm thinking, moms need some humor in there too. And having a mentor, having a group who can bring some of that in, and you can share your experiences, that's very helpful all by itself. And, we talk a lot about having a mentor with money or having a mentor for your business, but having a mentor for, the work of being a mother, that's a very cool thing that I think, again, a lot of moms probably, would have a little trouble feeling like they could invest in that, but the benefits are huge.
No,
So,
absolutely. Someone that can, offer an alternative perspective, like an unbiased third party, or even someone, like you said, humor is key. Even someone that can be like, find the humor
hmm
in, your baby's blowout in the middle of Walgreens, and just laugh about it
yeah,
and remind you that tomorrow's another day
yeah.
and it might happen again.
Oh, I love this. This is great. So, so how can people connect with you? I mean, how can they become, have their best life with you as a mentor?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can visit my website, www.angelabell.ca. They can find me on Instagram at i.am.angelabell. On Facebook, Angela Bell Life and Success Coaching. Um, and yeah, so there's a contact me tab on my website. So feel free to shoot me a message. Love to connect.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. And is your book available or not quite yet?
So I've got one that's out. The one I wrote in 15 minutes a day is 10 things you need to know about small business bankruptcy. That
Oh,
is available on
cool.
Amazon. And then I'm part of another collaboration coming out, I think, in the new year, Moms Who Boss Up.
Mm,
So
nice.
that'll be coming
Great.
out soon too.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. So, is this, is your work designed for any particular type of mom, or basically if you have
So
kids?
I focus most, like, my focus is on moms with um, business or entrepreneurial goals, but really, any mom that wants to feel good about living her best life,
Mm,
because, all goals matter. They don't have to be big to
right,
matter. They've got to matter to you.
right.
And so any mom that wants to work through, their limiting beliefs, their guilt, and get comfortable being their best self, I can work with them. I just happen to have a very in-depth understanding of being an entrepreneurial mom.
That's great. And that could take any form, right? I mean, you
Mhm.
could want to build a $1 billion empire, or you could just want a side, little small business.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to start a business because you want to make $1 million a month. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can want to make $500 a month. I mean, think about it. That's $500 a month could be life changing for someone.
Right,
Um, or even $100 a week.
right,
Like,
right.
just to have kind of that money that you've earned and it's yours to control.
Mm-hmm.
So, it doesn't have to be a big business. It might become a big business. I mean, who knows? The
Right.
sky's the limit, but you don't have to want a huge business to start in business.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you're helping empower women to have a mindset that they can earn. So the
Mm-hmm.
dollar amount is less important than just knowing that you have the power to go out there and earn money.
Absolutely, because once you learn how to like trust yourself to be able to earn, then you can do it with any dollar value.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because much like getting over the limiting beliefs associated with the mom guilt, getting over your limiting beliefs around earning money
Yeah.
is the biggest hurdle. Like getting rid of all the stuff that's in
Right.
your head that's holding you back. Because once you know you can and you believe that you can earn money, I mean, every level is just about learning, how.
That's right. Right. Yeah, very interesting, and it's a great creative um, expression and endeavor for women too. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important to have that little bit of creativity in your life, that goes beyond drawing with your child or whatever. And so building a business like that is very creative. And so
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you so much. I am so happy that you're doing this work in the world and that you came on to share it. Do you have, I always end the show with a tough love money tip. Any particular money tip that you would share specifically with moms?
Put money away from you for yourself,
Mm,
like not just your kids' RESPs. Put money away for yourself as well.
great. I love that. And again, probably the dollar amount is not the important part here. It's the habit of doing
Yeah,
it.
make the habit.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Angela. Well, this has been great. And
Yes, thank
I will
you.
be following you. And my kids are not young anymore, but I just love how you're helping women and moms. And they are an underserved group, in my opinion, in this realm. So thank you so much for doing that. And
Thank you, Michelle. This was great.
good. Okay. Well, thank you also for coming and showing up all the way from Canada. That's very fun for us. And audience, you will be able to. I don't know. I think this might be a show you want to listen to a couple of times. Angela went through some great material at the beginning, a process that helps you sort of unravel some of your mom guilt. I loved that. And this was just great. And if you are a mom listening, know that if you're not happy with your current situation or you're worried about things, there are mentors for you out there, including Angela Bell. And so I would jump on that. I wouldn't wait. I wouldn't say, yeah, sometime when my kids go to elementary school, I'll start paying attention to myself and to these things. I would do that right now, even if it's just for a short bit each day. And so thank you so much, listeners, for being here. You can find the Money and You Show on all the podcast platforms. You can find the video version on the Limit Free Life YouTube channel. And I'd love it if you'd subscribe, send us a review. If you have any questions, we would love to hear from you. You can reach me at Michelle, 2 L's, at limitfreelife.com. So again, thank you for being here, and thank you, ubngo.com, and we'll see you next week.